speaking of expectations, there's one player I've heard no expectations on. And this question comes from Yard of War on Twitter. Shout out to Yard of War. I'm in 2 of the Dynasty leagues on Yard of War, so go check them out if you guys don't know already. But it said Nelson Agholor, quietly, he might be much more valuable than most people think. He has the championship as a starting slot wide receiver, played with John Gruden and Bill Belichick. Joshua, what are you thinking about Nelson Agholor for this season? Because all we hear about is Zay, Bateman, Odell, even some Duvernay. We signed Nelson Agholor. Are we going to be using him?
I mean, honestly, was he one of the first wide receivers we signed during the offseason?
First, yeah.
God damn, man. It hurts my heart. But I said, man, you never know, man. You got one of his old wide receiver coaches. You got his wide receiver coach from USC in the building. So you got 2 guys that know Nelson Agholor. So 2 guys that will try their best to get him involved in the game. My thing is with Nelson Agholor, the level of consistency. I feel like because he doesn't have the pressure, his name's not being called up, he can be what Marcus Robinson was to us last year before he became like wide receiver number 1. A serviceable guy, a guy that can slip under the radar, get a catch here or there, take it up the field with the yak, get us a touchdown, put us in position, because we all seen Nelson Agholor sightings. When he's alive in the game, he comes alive. I mean, shoot. He worked out on us when we played against New England last year. So if we can get that Nelson Agholor, if we can get a little bit of Philadelphia Nelson Agholor before the drop sees or the inconsistency, I'm all for that.
Yeah, Nelson Agholor. When we signed him, I said I don't like this signing unless the Ravens go after somebody else. And I think I mentioned Odell. I was like, if we did something like gotten Odell and signed Agholor, I was like, that'd be perfect, right? Or we drafted somebody and signed Agholor, that'd be perfect, because then he's not asked, okay, I need you to be our 1. I need you to be our 2. I need you to be our 3. Then it becomes, okay, we just need you in the building because we can use your skill set, whether it's playing out of the slot or whether it's being a deep threat, because he's done both in his career and he's been successful at both. I see him as being our deep threat. I think Devin Duvernay is going to get a lot more reps than him, but I think Todd Monken's going to want to, bring 4 wide receivers out consistently. And I think much better than Devin Duvernay will be, Agholor's a deep threat. I know Duvernay has the speed, but he just doesn't, I don't know, he just doesn't run the deep routes. He doesn't have like crazy good route running or anything like that. And he doesn't seem to have insane ball tracking ability. That wasn't something he was known for in college.
Mm-hmm.
Agholor has that. And I think that he's going to be utilized, in, maybe 3 targets in a game, right? Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But enough to keep the defense honest where you'll throw them out on the field and they have to back up the safeties. And you back up the safeties, what happens? You run the ball. You got more space. So we haven't had that in our depth wide receivers at all. Any threat, right? You threw out Tylan Wallace, you threw out James Prochet, and it was like, sweet. Press up. Get closer. We good. That's what they're saying. And they were right. Now all of a sudden Agholor is like, okay, here's a vet. I've gone against him before. He can be kind of tricky. You give him a little bit of space. That just helps the Ravens team as a whole. Maybe it makes it so they don't, double team another guy because they have to have a deep threat. Not a deep threat. They need to have a deep zone over the top. I don't know. I'm expecting good stuff out of him. Nothing crazy. Again, I wouldn't draft him in fantasy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do anything like that. But I mean, a couple of deep shots. I honestly kind of compare him to Deshaun Jackson and how he was used. Right, wasn't out there every time, but
he's a step up from Sammy Watkins for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Deshaun Jackson came out there and it was like, oh yeah, it was 3rd down. You throw him out there, he'd get open, you throw it to him, or you run him as a deep threat, and it just kind of worked. The problem was the Ravens didn't have anybody, and it was Tyler Huntley throwing the ball half the time. It was like, okay, this just doesn't work at all.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm excited to see him. but I'm not expecting anything crazy out of him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure.